As you know, there are a lot of people behind the European Union project who have this passionate agenda to create a United States of Europe. But we are specifically talking about the people behind the Eurozone project and what they want to do across the continent of Europe. I sat down with Nigel Farage to discuss all this as our special guest. Before we get to that interview, don't forget you only have about 2 weeks left to get your merchandise with our special discount code THANKYOU15 to get 15% off of all our merchandise, including We Are The Media and also I Believe in Britain. You have until 12th of April when the pubs reopen, so make sure to definitely get your merchandise, get your t-shirts and everything. If you're a member of the channel, you guys get 25% discount. The code is in the community tab on the YouTube channel. Now, let's go to Nigel.
My battle for all those years was specifically against the European Commission. I kept making the point that the Commission is the government of Europe. It's unelected.
Yep.
I mean, half of them, you've never heard of their names
No.
even. And I never really managed to get that point through until now. But the EU has always hung together through solidarity. Solidarity during this vaccine row has now disappeared completely. And I think the interesting thing, looking ahead, is the next time there is a Eurozone crisis, which there will be. Because if you look at what's happening in Italy, in Greece, they are stuck in a terrible mess. Their debts are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The next time there's a bailout, the next time the Dutch taxpayer, or the German taxpayer is asked to put their hands in the pockets to bail out the South, I think you may see some reluctance. So I think what you've witnessed over vaccines is, in my mind, the beginning of the end of the European Union. It's lost legitimacy in the most dramatic way.
You're right. I think when you started the campaign years ago, initially, you were focusing on the fundamentals of the issue, but maybe it was too boring at the time for a lot of people, too dry for a lot of people in the mainstream to even pay attention to it, or maybe it was too admin related because it was mostly about the concept of the EU and the UK. So who does your paperwork? A building, unelected building in Brussels or an elected building somewhere else in your own countries. And they just didn't get, but you managed to shift the opinions and the debate into make them kind of more simplified and depending on each area.
Well, also, I mean, the point was, I mean, in the 90s, I'd go around talking about this stuff, and people say, "Well, Nigel, all right, mate, it's not going to affect me." Do you see what I mean?
They just saw them as a couple of few.
It was as if it was like, oh, well, this is fine to debate at the Oxford Union, but it doesn't really affect.
And it doesn't affect everyday life, does it?
and when people began to realise that it did affect everyday life, and when they began to understand that the symbolism of flags, anthems, defence forces, police forces, so it did take a long time, but we got there in the end, and we're not going back.
It's fascinating how because you still got two types of Euro-federalists in the UK. I don't even call them Remainers because they're all being Europhiles. One type who are just naive enough to keep falling for this solidarity. And I remember, we remember Tony Blair, and you had this encounter.
That was great fun.
In the European Parliament. That was fun. I mean, they keep falling for this trap of obviously family flag. Oh yeah, this flag is fine, by the way. The Union flag is not good, but EU flag is fine to use. But what they want is to centralize. Guy Verhofstadt said it every 10 minutes. All the others have said it, that they just want to centralize, especially banking system, the financial system. How's that been going for the European Union when it comes to financials?
Well, look, it is a command economy, and 6 times in the European Parliament, 6 times, I did it with Barroso, I did it with Juncker, I did it with von der Leyen. 6 times I said that what they were building was a new form of communism. Now, of course, whenever I said that, they all screamed and shouted. Ursula von der Leyen is threatening to take over factories. To take over the means of production. It's GCSE politics. And this is, and I'm sorry, I don't apologise at all, actually. It is a modern, dated form of centralised control where bureaucrats make the big decisions, and hey, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And do you know what? I couldn't have believed, in a sense, our luck. Because just 3 months after, we're finally out. And yes, there are problems. What's happening in Northern Ireland is unacceptable. Fisheries, stuff at the border. We know all that. But we've shown that being able to make a sovereign decision, leaving the European Medicines Agency, and now, so many people say to me,
Yeah.
well, look, Nigel, your point is proven. So the great thing is that the Brexit wars are over, and those Euro-federalists that you mentioned a few minutes ago, and we're talking about the Lord Adonises. I mean, they all look nuts.
They're the modern hippies. And just because they wear a suit and tie doesn't mean they're not hippies.
But they're nuts. So it's settled, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
The fact that it's settled is a good thing. The fact we're signing trade deals all over the world and finding it much easier to do that than we thought we were going to be. The real question now is, to what extent are we going to allow the entrepreneurial flair in this country to flourish by taking some of the shackles of regulation off?
That's the things.
And that's a big debate.
Yes, exactly. And this goes back to especially the financial side of the economy and the World Bank.
At the moment, we call it the city.
Yeah.
But let's call it the financial services industry.
Yeah.
And it's not the city because, it's big in Cardiff and Glasgow and Birmingham.
Canary Wharf is not the city, technically.
Well, no, that's right. But at the moment, we're operating all of this in line with EU rules.
Yes.
And that has led to regulation's important, but it's led to a compliance culture that is beginning to make London a more and more expensive place to come and do business. And we have got to break free of those EU rules. Yeah. We've got to start thinking in terms of financial services in a truly global way. And whenever we do that, you'll find that London comes out top.
But that's the thing. This is why I was going to ask you this, because it's not just the European Union. A lot of the banking institutions and the old school bankers have been in favour of this kind of big centralised system because they're used to it. It's the almost established version. You yourself are involved with a specific project, Fortune and Freedom.
Yep.
And there are certain people who want to slightly more radicalized, which is funny that it's radicalized, that you want to decentralize the financial services. But tell me more about that.
Well, look, I spent just over 20 years working in the commodities. That was my main thing. Copper, aluminium, lead, tin, zinc, and nickel. They were mainly the things that I traded and broked over that period of time. But, I did get involved in all financial instruments. Right. Currencies, precious metals, all those things. And what you've seen in financial services is a little bit like what we saw in politics. In British politics, we saw the big parties all come together and absolutely agree on many of the big issues, and elections were fought on how we're going to manage schools and hospitals. Yeah. Because there was a consensus view that had been formed. And anybody that came along to challenge that consensus was necessarily written off as being mad and bad. Right? Hey.
Yeah,
my view is that the financial services industry is the same.
Same problem here.
Utterly dominated by a handful of enormous organisations, global organisations. And you know what? They love the compliance culture. They love the regulatory culture because it means actually the cost to entry for new people coming into the market to challenge them are too difficult. Everything to do with our savings, our pensions, is explained to us that it's much too difficult for us. We are to be patted on the head and to be told, just hand over your money and leave it to the experts. Yeah. All right? And what we have seen is scandal after scandal. Yeah. Despite acres of legislation coming out of Brussels, despite now the 5th money laundering directive making it almost impossible to open a bank account, no one's been protected. And you've seen an industry that is overcharged in terms of fees, those fees compounding over 20 or 30 years of a plan. And the point about Fortune and Freedom is, just as I wanted voters to challenge the status quo establishment view, I think the same is needed in terms of people's savings. And I think what we're trying to do here is to demystify what goes on in financial markets and to explain to people, actually, why don't you take back control of your money and take back control of your life? So that's what the project's about. And so we've been going for a few months. We've got about 100,000 people now who take the daily newsletter. Okay. And we are demystifying, and also, there is a further add-on service where we've given specific recommendations for stocks. I don't give the advice. I don't give the advice. I'm no longer a regulated person in that sense. But I'm relying on some very experienced investors. And actually, I tell you something, taking back control of your own money, taking back control of your own financial future is quite a liberating thing to do.
That's the thing. I mean, as you said, one of the slogans or the mission statements is taking back your control of your money, just like how with Brexit as a concept it did.
Yeah.
And there's this been issue with because of the culture of the establishment financial services all around it. A lot of ordinary people who, for example, supported Brexit will just look at things like this and say, oh, well, first it's too complicated, or it's always like people who are wearing these like suits and ties, like Jack every smoke when he was young. Like, how can I get involved with this? Should I get involved with this? Is this right? Or are these bad people? I think it's because it's been dominated by a certain type that's created this prejudice. It's nothing wrong with people getting involved with it. Right?
I mean, part of that demystification is people say, well, how do I buy gold?
Yeah.
Where do I go? What do I do? How do I avoid getting ripped off? So we've done things like that, helping people say, if you want to buy gold, you want to buy silver, this is where you go, this is how you do it. Cryptocurrencies.
Oh, yeah.
Now, go to your bank and they'll say, oh, no. And yet actually they are becoming an asset class, aren't they?
Well,
and,
Tesla.
Well, Tesla, PayPal, even JP Morgan saying they are now a recognized asset class. So all of this has gone on. And yet if you read the newspapers, or listen to the governor of the Bank of England, you're told, don't go near it, it's all a disaster. Now, they may be right, it may be, the modern day tulip bubble, but I don't think it is. I think this is real, and it's here to stay. And again, what we've tried to do, by using acknowledged global experts, is explain to people what cryptocurrencies are. But crucially, if you want to get involved in them, how not to get ripped off, how not to get conned. And I think one of the big things that we do want to do is to help people avoid financial disasters.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, what you're doing, the goal, the intention is great, and the whole process of it, obviously you're making it easy anyway.
Yeah.
And then I think there's this problem with the banking system being centralized, and also certain changes they made over the last 100 years or slightly more than that, and moving from the gold standards. There's been a very controversial debate for years and years. And some people want to get rid of it, they can't. Maybe the cryptocurrency is a new way to make changes without completely destroying the system.
It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think that we need to talk about is the fact that we've lived now really for nearly 40 years without inflation.
Right, yeah.
We have not had inflation.
No, proper inflation, yeah.
And the signs are now there. The signs are now there. It'll be led by America and China, because these are two gigantic economies that have basically barely been affected by the pandemic. China's powering on. It's a big consumer of commodities and many other things. The stimulus packages in America are just off the charts in terms of size. You can see interest rates already in the States beginning to tick up, a danger of the economies overheating. And I think I suspect we're going into a period of a few years where we're going to have inflation. And that means anyone that's got their money in the bank, far from not just earning any interest, is going to find that money actually devaluing over time. And I think the next big challenge for people preparing for their, saving for their retirement or whatever it is, the next big challenge is going to be inflation. So that's very much where I'm going to be focused.
Yeah, that's the thing. So on this issue, how can people get involved? Obviously, I'll put the link in the description for people. But
well, look, it's free.
Yep.
It's free. You subscribe, you will get a free daily newsletter. Simple. If you like what you see and you want to take it further, there are subscription services, where you go on and get specific recommendations. But to initially sign up to the content that we're putting out every day, it's free.
Brilliant, that's perfect. Okay, I'll put the details in the description so you guys check it out. Well, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. And as I said during the interview, I put the link to the Fortune and Freedom in the description. Definitely sign up to the newsletter. It's free to do so, and you get a lot of good information. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tousi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.